Hello student, welcome to the class of computer network. So we'll study and continue with a topic that is the various layer of the OSI model and its function. So in a previous video we have studied about network layer and transport layer, and before that we have studied about data link layer and physical layer. So in today's lecture, we'll study about session layer, presentation layer, and application layer. So first is the session layer. What do you understand by the word session? So if there is some kind of connection that is established between the two endpoints, two application which is communicating, okay, so you can say that the session is being maintained. So the function of the session layer is to allow user on different machine to establish active communication session between them. So first what is session layer? So the session layer allows you to establish active communication session between them. So it is responsible for establishing, maintaining, synchronizing, terminating the session between the two user application. The function of the session layer, or it is going to manage and synchronize the conversation. So first point you are going to remember for the session layer is what actually is the session. So if a connection is established and maintained by the two endpoints which is going to communicate the data back and forth, so that is nothing but the session. And all activity related to a session will be done by the session layer. So from this diagram you can see that sender and receiver are going to establish a session between this layer, that is the session layer. What are the function of the session layer? That we'll study next. So the first function of the session layer is authentication. Like we'll take an example. Suppose a user wants to do some kind of banking activity. So user will logged in to the particular banking website. So first the user will enter the username and password. The user is going to enter the username and password. If the username and password is correct, the user will be authenticated. It will be transmitted to the home page of the particular banking website. So that is the authentication. And once the username and password is correct, a particular session will be created between the user and the particular server. Next is the authorization. What do you understand by the word authorization? Once the user have logged in using the username and password, the user will be given a certain set of privileges. It will enjoy certain set of privileges, like a user can transfer some amount, he can create a FD. So these are the basic activities that user are allowed to do. That is the authorized to perform. So now the user cannot delete the account of other user. The user cannot view the bank detail of other user. So the user is not privileged to do all this such kind of activity. So who is going to do all this function? It will be done by the session layer. First is user will be authenticated. Next is user is authorized. Next is session restoration. Now suppose you are doing some kind of activity using your browser and suddenly there is a power cut or the internet connectivity is lost. So this session will be lost. You are not able to navigate the pages, and suddenly after some point the connection is restored, okay, or power is restored. So at that point you will get an option that is session restoration. And once you click on the session restoration, all the previously started tabs will be appeared and you can continue with your browsing. So that is nothing but the session restoration. So this session restoration is allowed for all these basic kind of activities. But what if I'm doing some kind of banking application? Like I'm just going to transfer an amount to another account and suddenly the connection is lost or the battery is lost. So when I get the power connection again, or suppose power connection in the time if I'm using the mobile and my battery is been dried out. So if I get the power connection again or I get the internet connection again, it will not automatically take me to that particular page like OTP kind of activity. It will ask me for the authentication process again. Why? Because that is a some different point that needs to be remembered because the activity is very crucial related to banking. So based on the network security, it will ask me for the authentication and then again I have to do all kind of activity. But if I'm doing some kind of browsing, navigation kind of shopping kind of activity, okay, then session will be restored. Next is the checkpointing. What do you understand by the word checkpointing? Checkpoint is been placed. Like for example, if you are going to download a file of 500 MB and if there is no checkpoint and you have downloaded a file of till the size 350 and suddenly if the network connection is lost. So if there is no checkpoint, you have to start from again, that is from the 0%. But if there is checkpoint after suppose 100 MB, then you have to start again from the 300 MB only. So that is the importance of checkpointing. Next is the synchronization. Synchronization means suppose your video is being played and the audio and the lip sync is not been synchronized. So you will not enjoy the particular uh, any kind of series. So that is a synchronization. So synchronization between the audio and the video is very important. So all this will be done by the session layer. There will be separate files. The separate files need to be synchronized. So all this activity will be done by the session layer. So the function of the session layer is first is authentication, authorization, session restoration, checkpointing, and synchronization. Next is the presentation layer. What is the function of presentation layer? So by the word presentation, what do you understand by the word presentation? It concentrate on the syntax and semantics of the information. It is mainly concentrate on the syntax and semantics of the information exchange between the system. So the main aim of the presentation layer is to convert data from one presentation format to the other format. Okay, as different application may be using different application format. So presentation layer is concerned with the syntax and semantics of the information exchange between the system. So you have to remember what is the present session layer deal with the session which is established between the user and the endpoints. Presentation layer is concentrated on the syntax and semantics of the information. What is the function of the presentation layer? First is it is going to perform some kind of encoding. Now what do you understand by the encoding? Suppose one system is using ASCII. Next is using EBCDI. So in such kind of different format, okay, EBCDIC, whatever you can pronounce it like absent, you can just spell each word. So if these are the different encoding different format, So if one system is using this format, another system is using this format, and they needs to communicate. So from ASCII to another format, some kind of encoding should be done. So who will perform that task? That task will be performed by the presentation layer. So presentation layer provides the manner in which the encoding will be done. Like in general example, if I am using Gujarati and the another end user is using Marathi and we needs to communicate. So we'll be able to communicate. Once the data is received in the Marathi, it will be translated to Gujarati so that I will be better be understood. Similarly, whatever data I will send, that will be translated to Marathi so that the end user will understand. So over here, the different system is using different encoding scheme, which is from the different vendors. So even though if they are going to use the different encoding scheme, that should not be the barrier to the communication. So there will be some kind of layers that will perform all such kind of tasks. That is the task of the presentation layer. Next important task of the presentation layer is the encryption and decryption. Okay, your data will be encrypted so that even if the intruders is going to take a look to your data, they will not understand the content. So for the data security purpose, you are going to deal with the encryption and decryption. Okay, what is encryption? Your plain text is been converted to the ciphertext. What do you understand by ciphertext? The text that will not make any sense to the user or anyone who is going to view their data. That is the encryption process. Similarly, at the end user also, the ciphertext will be converted again to the plain text. What do you understand by plain text? A text that can be easily read and easily understood. That is a plain text. Whatever I am going to teach over here is in the plain text. So the presentation layer is going to deal with the encryption and decryption. That is the very important. You are going to send your data across your network, so you have to protect your system from the intruders. Next is the presentation layer also deal with the compression and expansion of the information. You are going to compress your data, you are going to remove the redundancy. So all such kind of activity will be done by the presentation layer. So what is the main function of the presentation layer? To deal with the different encoding scheme, to deal with the different encoding system, and still the system should be able to communicate, to deal with the encryption and decryption, and to deal with the compression and expansion. So I hope that you have understood about what is the activity of the presentation layer. Next is the application layer. So what do you understand by this topmost layer? So application layer concentrate on providing services to the user. It is a topmost layer. So you can say this layer acts as an interface between the user and the underlying network. So the application layer contains numerous protocol that is used by user for different purpose. So there is many number of protocols, set of rules that are used at the application layer. So application layer allows the user to access and share files, to share emails, to send access and send emails, access web pages. And application layer is the layer closest to the end user, implying that the application and the end user interact directly with the software application. So application layer is the topmost layer. There are various kind of protocols that are used for different kind of purposes. So what are the function of the application layer? So first is these determine the protocol and data syntax rule at the application layer. It also defines the basic syntax of the message that is been forwarded and retrieved. Application layer provides the protocol that allows the software to communicate and receive data and present it to the user in a meaningful way. It allows for the remote login. It allows for the email access and storage facility. And this layer act as a window via which the user and application can access the network resources. So there are many kind of protocols that are used at the application layer: HTTP, POP, SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, FTP, file transfer protocol, NFS, that is a network file system, DNS, that is a domain name system. So there are various protocols that are used at the application layer. Each is going to have a separate port number that we'll study in a further lecture. So you have to remember and understand about what is the function of application layer, what is the function of presentation layer, what is the function of session layer, and each and every layer, so that you understand the concept of OSI model. So I hope that you have understood about various layers and its function. As a student, I remember this OSI model as AP, ST, and DP. Till date, I remember this OSI model in this format: AP, ST, and DP. That is application, presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical link. I hope that you have understood about these three layers and its functions. Thank you for watching the lecture. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.